And we are live on a Thursday for another issue or edition of the Mattriarchy. I am, of course, Matt Reese, coming at you from sunny Scottsbluff, Nebraska. And it is still sunny out here because it's kind of early. From way on east, where it might well be dark, is Matt McJerkface.
Yeah, it's pretty dark here, and unfortunately, it's not very sunny. It's actually going to be very rainy over the next couple of days, and I have to go hiking tomorrow.
You have to go hiking? Someone's got a gun to your head?
Yeah, see this. The government just said, "All right, kid, you can go hiking, or you can have your siblings. Good choice." The government and the mafia kind of blend together in my mind, but nah, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's going to be raining, and our policy for this is a part of I have to take this for PE at school. And one of the policies is that you show up rain or shine, and it's supposed to thunderstorm tomorrow.
So you have PE in college?
Yeah, it's actually a requirement. You can't graduate without it.
That's strange. Okay. Well,
I mean, hey, I got to take karate, so I'm not complaining.
Well, yeah, that's not too bad. Joining with us, our special guest today is John, and you're going to have to forgive me if I say your name wrong. I meant to ask in the pre-show, and I didn't. Is it Castellanos?
Vanessa and I have two different pronunciations for it. It could be either Castellanos or Castellanos. I generally tend to stick with Castellanos because it's what I grew up with. But Vanessa's Hispanic, so she pronounces it the technical way.
Okay. Isn't it something that in Spain they actually they'd say Castellanos?
I honestly don't know, really.
I remember learning about that. I took several Spanish classes throughout high school. And sometimes the teacher would have us say Llanos, and but then sometimes they'd say Shanos, and they said the difference was one was Latino, and one was Spain.
Yeah, it could be Spain. I'm more Mexican in origin, so we've got the Llanos, the Castellanos, the pronunciation.
Well, now that you're saying it, I'm really liking it that way. But I kind of figured you were Italian, to be honest. I was like Castellanos.
Nah. I'm part Hispanic, so.
All right.
Something I learned years ago is that Spain actually has a lot of regional dialects that we don't really hear over here in America much because it's diluted by travel and everything. So if you meet somebody from Andalusia, they're going to sound like different from somebody from like Seville.
Yeah. Well, looks like Vanessa just woke up. I'm gonna hold on really quickly.
All right. We have some people in the chat right now. Danielle says, "Hi guys." Carl says, "John" in all caps. I'll have to tell him that when he gets back.
Carl. Hello.
Yeah, oh, man, I'm actually, because I've been looking forward to this, having the both of you on here for quite a while. I've been hyping, or my girlfriend is very excited about this as well.
Oh, cool.
Can you hear Vanessa back there?
A little bit.
Huh? What? Say something.
Hello.
Hello. Well, thanks for coming on, Vanessa.
You're welcome.
She says you're welcome.
Okay.
You're our intermediate, John. You're the Vanessa whisperer.
Well, I'm also closer to the mic too, so I mean, there's that.
So I wanted to ask you specifically because, we've talked a lot about Vanessa and cartoons, but I also was kind of curious because you're more of a music guy. What's kind of your story, your creative ventures you've taken? I guess across your entire life to where you are now, you make music, you have this online persona of a wolf, I believe it is.
It's a fox, actually, silver fox.
Do those exist?
Yeah, it's technically a silver fox.
It's a genetic fur mutation. It doesn't necessarily happen that much in the wild, it's technically a red fox, but they have different fur coloration. It's different.
So basically, what you're telling me is that on top of being an anthropomorphic fox with a hat, you are also a mutant.
Hmm.
Something like that. I guess you could say that.
That sounds like a way to go, man. You could be the next. You'll be like a Ninja Turtles groupie. Like you just hang out with them.
Yeah, probably.
That's what I would do. How did that kind of come about? Like, kind of create. Like, is this an old character that you've had in your head for a while, and you just kind of brought to Twitter and social media with you, or?
Well, actually, the profile picture that I have, monochrome is mostly one of the characters that Vanessa and I have for our personal creative project, Cosmic Kids. It's something that I actually only barely created when we first started dating. Really. So yeah,
That was back when we were bronies, though.
Yeah, well, it's a funny story about that. Is we were part of the My Little Pony fandom before. So Monochrome was a pony before he became a fox, and then we abandoned that fandom, and he just became a fox essentially.
Now, was that because of the way that the fandom started to turn, or?
It was. Oh gosh, that's a good question. It was mostly because we just got bored of it. After like the third season, it wasn't really as appealing to us. We kind of felt like it was being just pandering way too much to the fandom and not really, being creative in terms of just coming up with good stories, I guess, good adventures, something along those lines. And not only that, but at that time too, we were just busy with life. I was in college at the time. Vanessa was in college, and we were just too busy to really focus on it. So,
geez, you couldn't be that much older than I am, because My Little Pony, the latest show, is only from 2011, 2012.
I think so.
Somewhere.
Oh, geez, that's inspiring. Because now that's what you guys are kind of like the blueprint of where my life or where I want to go with my life. I see a happy married couple, Christian cartoon lovers. Not afraid to be who they are, and that's what I see, and that's kind of like what I'm aiming for with my girlfriend. We've been together for a while, and we actually met over cartoons. She said that she never thought she'd meet somebody her age who cared about it as much as she did, and it's kind of awesome. It's like you find a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Now I'm trying to think about another question to ask. Or one that just that segues naturally off of. How did you guys meet?
How did we meet?
Oh my gosh! You want me to answer the questions?
Well,
we met on DeviantArt.
I could answer the questions, but
he saw some old art that I did somewhere in like 2013. I was almost gonna graduate from high school already, and he just it was about as normal as you can get. So he just said like, "Oh, I like your art. This is nice," and I was like, "Oh, thank you," and that was it. And then I kind of like I had a relationship with a different guy, right at the same time that John was trying to impress me by doing a computer model, one of my super old robot characters. And I mean, it got my attention, but for some odd reason, I went with this other guy. I won't mention him, for his sake, but he was good. He was a nice guy. But it just didn't work out after like 2.5 months. And then I was like, I remember that other guy, was, really nice and, Christian and everything. I just want to strike up probably a friendship with him. And I just started sending him notes on DeviantArt. And, yeah, we just like kept going from there. And then we just started emailing each other and then texting each other. And then, yeah, the whole thing about meeting each other in real life is a bit of another story in itself, because my dad didn't want us to meet until I was done with college. Yeah. So
Who just came in with the harmonica?
I know. I was about ready to comment on that.
I was
Random
like-
I didn't turn my ringer off on my phone, and that's the text notification.
I see.
I'm gonna make a note of that because that actually sounds like a pretty good
I
notification.
gotta fix that here. There we go.
Get some blues in there.
Yeah, or some like road or some like Western road travel music.
Yeah, everybody says that you have the coolest ringer, and I'm like, okay, thank
You
you.
want to know what mine is?
No,
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
Isn't that from The Price is Right?
Price is Right.
oh man,
It gets me laughed at in public because like I'll be walking down the bread aisle or something, and there'll be like some old lady next to me, and all of a sudden like my mom will be calling me, and say, "Oh, you're at the grocery store, pick something up," and it'll start playing, and then everybody around just turns and starts laughing.
I can imagine that would be like the worst thing to happen in an opportune time. Like, say you're at a funeral and then it just goes off.
Oh my gosh! Like, you can now say your piece. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. My one before then, which actually scared a lot of people in bad situations, I'd rather have them laugh than be scared because I had this like alien noise. Like, it was like, and it freaked a lot of people out. Like, I'd rather have them get shocked and start laughing. And I found the Price is Right theme song and made that my ringtone. Really quick in the chat. So Danielle says, or in music notes, writes Adult Mutant Ninja Fox. I don't know. You seem more like a Shogun type of guy.
Shogun?
Yeah. I like to imagine that's. I know that's not actually what it is, but I always imagined it was. As a kid, I thought it was a samurai with a gun. That's not the case.
it is not.
That would be cool though. When I was younger, I just thought it had gun in the name, so that's what I thought. Carl says John and Vanessa are, as the kids call it, relationship goals.
Oh gosh.
Oh gosh.
I mean,
That's,
there are ups and downs like every other relationship, but we're both weirdos. We tolerate each other in that aspect, but no.
We tolerate and love each other at the same time.
That's the best.
You guys have been married for how long?
We've been married for less than a year, so
2 more months.
we got
It's
about
been a year.
we got about 2 more months until our anniversary.
Okay.
How long have you been dating? Like together, or I guess together as a couple, really?
Since November 2014.
So, oh gosh, 4 or 5 years almost.
Funny enough, that's actually when I would have met my girlfriend right now.
Oh.
For the first time. Yeah. Now, over the years, you guys have talked about interest in cartoons. Was that always the goal for you? I guess this question goes to both of you. Or was it a hobby, or was it something that's like, you know what, I really do want to do this?
Should I go first?
Yeah, you go first, because I'm a bit more complicated.
Oh gosh. Well, I've grown up with Disney movies for like the longest time, like ever since I was little. So I guess you could say I was like exposed to that sort of thing. My parents would get me VHSs of Disney movies and all that, but it didn't really click for me until like I was in the 4th grade, and I watched Fantasia 2000 for the first time, and that was when I was like, okay, I wanna work in this industry and everything. So I really love that movie, and ever since then, it's just I'd be that weird, that weird girl sitting in the corner just drawing, and just wants to go home because she just wants to watch more cartoons and whatever. So
That's actually something like that's very similar to me, because as I was growing up, I always just thought, I was like, what's wrong? Or as older people got older and they didn't care about cartoons as much, I thought it was weird. And I was like, how can you just give up on this? This is awesome. And then, like I told you, my girlfriend, she was very into cartoons. It was kind of interesting because the day I met her, she was very shy, and she was just talking with another friend of mine. And then somehow, I bring up cartoons because that's what I think I love video games the most, but I really do love cartoons, like probably second best.
Mm-hmm.
And I started talking about that, and all of a sudden, like her face just lights up, like there's something. Like she's like, "Wait, you like cartoons?"
Mm-hmm.
And that was our goal when we first started dating. Is we both, I think, we set the unrealistic goal that we were going to end up at Pixar.
I mean, it's possible. You just work hard.
It's possible, but it's about as likely as me becoming president. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, they are pretty selective.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's for the better, and sometimes it's for cars too. So that was an interesting. The third movie kind of acts like Cars 2 didn't even happen.
Yeah,
um,
I never saw that one.
I don't think I ever saw the third one either.
The third one is all right, but the second one is like we don't ever acknowledge it. I've never seen that one or The Good Dinosaur.
The Good Dinosaur, I saw, like, I was kind of, I guess, falling asleep as I was watching it, but it's pretty much just uncomfortable crying and whining for 2 hours and a weird drug scene.
Mm-hmm. It seemed like it was trying to be like the Pixar version of Land Before Time or something.
Yeah,
Like, I've only seen the beginning, but I never finished it. Because
like visually it's beautiful, like especially like the water effects and stuff like that. And I think that's like where the entire the entire focus of the movie was on, was just looking pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just weird because like you have these, really soft looking stylized dragons. What am I thinking? Dinosaurs in this movie, and everything else looks super realistic. I don't understand it.
Yeah, one thing when I first saw it, I thought it was going to be like a comedy about like modern civilization with the dinosaurs because the meteor missed them. And I was just thinking it was going to be kind of like Monsters Inc. or Cars, where it's like something, it's a civilization made up of sentient creatures you weren't expecting, and that's what I was kind of hoping for when I first saw the trailer where the meteorite misses them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, oh, that looks like it, like that's Zootopia, basically. I was expecting Zootopia.
Yeah.
Now, was that? No, I actually did want to ask you both. Is that a movie that you both enjoyed? Given your backgrounds.
Oh yeah, Zootopia.
Yes.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. We liked it.
Yeah, that was one that my girlfriend went nuts about. I definitely liked it a lot too. I think I went to see it twice in the theater. Let's see. The only reason I would ever. Oh yeah. This is kind of something I agree with. She's in the chat right now saying I have not seen The Good Dinosaur either, and the only reason I would ever consider it would be to say that I've watched every Pixar movie.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, I'm kind of curious about is because Disney did a lot of live action movies at one point, like kind of the '70s, and they shifted back to animation. But I missed out on those. I never actually watched them, like 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Like a lot of the old Disney one.
Yeah, there's That Darn Cat and The Ugly Duckling, The Computer That Wore Tennis Shoes. And
wait, didn't they make didn't they make a Dick Tracy movie?
I
they made one.
Yeah, I think that was Disney that made it, like 1990 or something.
No, it wasn't Disney. It was one of their subsidiaries. It was Touchstone.
Oh, okay.
Like Disney absorbed. I think it was Disney absorbed Touchstone at one point, but it wasn't branded by Disney. But it was distributed by their Buena Vista distribution company.
Yeah, Touchstone is mostly used to like distribute their more adult films. I don't think it's like an actual. I don't think it's an actual company. It's practically a name that they use.
Yeah, and it could be. It could be.
So have you guys seen the?
I was thinking it started separately though, but I might be wrong about that.
Disney had that merger with Fox recently, and they had that that bit with The Simpsons where it's like kind of self-aware about how big Disney's getting, and I thought it was pretty funny, but a lot of people felt uncomfortable with it. Have you guys seen that?
Yes,
I have not.
Nor have I.
I thought it was pretty funny. It was basically just like, we're now part of the Disney family. I, for one, welcome our corporate overlords.
It was honestly kind of ominous for me, since it was all silent and everything. At least the background was like silent.
Yeah, it was like nothing was moving. I kind of liked that it was self-aware, but at the same time, I could kind of get why some people were made uncomfortable by it. I think some people, it's just Disney is getting very big, and that's because that's a cause of concern for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is pretty concerning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wanted to ask you because I believe you've talked about because in my conversations with you, John, you've talked about the chance of meeting some different people from the cartoon industry. Are there any like cool stories you want to share with that?
I mean, not super cool, I guess. I mean, we have a few friends in the industry. I guess that's about as cool as it gets. Vanessa and I went to Disney TV animation at least a couple of times. That's pretty
cool. Like, to do business, or how much are you allowed to say?
I mean, it's mostly just to see a friend that works there. I did do business with him. He was going to make a video of some kind. I'm not really going to disclose any details on it, but he was going to make a video of some kind, and he wanted me to do the music for it. It really it hasn't really been done, or it hasn't been finished yet. He's thinking of kind of holding it back for maybe next year. I'm not particularly sure what the details are, but I do know that he did want me to do the music for it, and I did actually do some work for it. I'm just waiting to hear back on what the next step is as far as things are concerned. Vanessa and I did go to DreamWorks once to see a friend. We also have a couple of good friends of ours out here that we hang out with quite regularly. We got to go to Warner Brothers Animation and see the behind the scenes for the new superhero girls.
DC superhero.
The DC superhero girls thing. So that was pretty
really
cool.
Good. Superhero girls TV show.
Yeah, it's pretty cute. Sorry. It's pretty cute. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. I mean, aside from that, nothing super cool. Nothing super cool, I guess. It's not like we've met anybody that's really, really well known. Yeah. Like Lauren Faust or anybody. We haven't met Lauren Faust yet. So
that's on your bucket list. Yeah.
Yeah. Among other things.
Yeah, that was. I think she's such an inspiration. She's made her and Craig McCracken. They've both been involved in some of the best cartoons in the past several decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, funny enough, because I cleared off. I have a celebrity bucket list of my own. And my latest one that I just cleared off was I met Angry Video Game Nerd last Saturday. That was awesome. He's kind of like the opposite of his online persona. It was really nice.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We've met with Chris Raygun. He's a really nice guy.
Oh, really? That's one of the people I'd love to meet, but he also lives on the opposite end of the country.
Yeah,
he's actually really like mild mannered. Of course he plays a persona on, in YouTube and everything, but he's a really, really chill guy. The 2 times that we've met up with him and everything.
Yeah, he's a very cool guy. We want to get together.
Sorry.
We want to get together again with him one of these days, whenever he's got his schedule open.
Now, do you guys live like in the LA area? Do you have to set up a meeting with him?
Well, we actually live only like 15 minutes away from where he is, so it's not too far. It's just common courtesy to set up a meeting.
Yeah.
We're all busy with our schedules as it is. Vanessa and I are busy with our things, and
we actually met up because of Bunty. We I don't know if you know Bunty
King
at all. Yeah. He just like hit us up because he knew we were in the area and everything, and just said like, oh, you want to hang out, because he's from Canada and he only comes here for like VidCon or what is it called, the E3, whenever that happens. So and do it. I was actually glad that he actually thought of us, and just said like, oh, you want to come see us and everything. and yeah, and he did that again like about like 2 weeks after, I believe. And we saw each other again. We were mostly quiet though, because we're really shy, quiet people. But we chat when we can.
I mean, that's just really. So that's the thing I've always imagined is if you live out there, you get to you're close to physically you're closer to everybody else than anywhere else or any other part of America. But I've heard a lot of instances of people just bumping into each other in Los Angeles, like oh, I just was walking down the street and Chris Ray Gun was there, or sometimes it'll be a celebrity.
We practically bumped into him one time actually.
That did actually happen.
We were with our friends in Burbank, like downtown Burbank once. We were just walking with their friends and we just see Chris Ray Gun like just walking down the street and we're like, hey, and he recognized us like, hey, like, how are you doing? And he just said like, well, if you want to hang out, I'm gonna be over here and everything. But of course we were with our friends, we were with them first, so but it was just out of nowhere. It's like, oh wait, is that Chris? That's Chris. We
like,
just saw him
is.
again, and just said hi, and he remembered us, of course, and yeah.
I remember one time him talking about on Twitter. He had said that he gets this uncomfortable feeling, like when a fan meets him, like a little bit of a different situation for yours. But like, so if somebody was like, excuse me, sir, but by any chance would you happen to be? And he's like, and you get this uncomfortable cringe come up from the bottom of your stomach.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever actually been like recognized in real life, or?
I mean, a couple of times when we went to like CTN or something.
That's about it.
That's about it.
There was this one time in my school, I made friends with this guy who happened to be one of my fans when I was still in DeviantArt. Like we had this class. I forget what it was. I forget what the class was, but we sat next to each other, and I was just drawing ponies and everything. And he's like, "Oh, like you draw nice. What is you have a DeviantArt?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Miss Jazz DeFunk in DeviantArt," and he like kind of freaked out a little, like oh, I watch you on DeviantArt and everything, and we were like pretty good friends from then on. I ought to hit him up sometime and everything, but that was about it. I don't really recall much anything else.
Now, are you guys keeping, I guess, going off the subject of California, bumping into people, stuff like that? You two, are you both from California? Are you from different parts of the state, or what's
I was born here. I was born in Tustin and raised in Santa Ana, and I've been living there for years and years until I was 22. February of 2018. That's when I finally got out of the house and everything. But yeah, I've lived almost the entirety of my life in Santa Ana. So.
Yeah, and as for me, I also am a native Californian as well. I was born in Oxnard, California, which is part of the Ventura County.
That means that you're from the same town as the Battletoads.
Probably.
Yeah, that's actually really awesome.
Yeah, but I was born there. Then you lived in the Riverside area for a little small spell of time, and then when I was around 7 years old, I moved to a small horse town called Acton, and I basically pretty much lived there pretty much for most of my life until about last year when I finally moved out. When I finally moved out to the Los Angeles area. So, I mean, Acton's still part of the Los Angeles County, but it's like north.
Now, moving to Los Angeles, is it as stressful and hectic as everyone says it is?
Yes.
Yeah.
You need to set aside a pretty ample, savings just in case. At the time, I had like about $3,000 to my name, just in case something happens and everything. my parents always said, like, if there's any problem, I could move back. Well, I can't do that now because I'm married, so we're gonna have to figure that out ourselves now. But yeah, it is pretty tough, you know.
I think
Well,
I
see,
took.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I think I took a bigger risk. I had like what 200 or something to my name.
Oh
I
my.
had less money, but I still managed to make it out here. Yeah, it can be pretty stressful. I think part of it, at least for us, just comes from the fact that we're still young. We at the time we never lived anywhere outside of our parents' house, and so being a fully functioning adult is certainly a somewhat new experience. It is actually a very new experience in a sense. So yeah, that definitely amps up the stress level times 10.
Now,
But
being married. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna ask you, like, getting married, is it kind of freaky or is it kind of just natural?
and it's natural. I would argue it's pretty natural
For what? I'm sorry.
for getting married. Getting married.
I mean, it feels odd, of course, probably like the first few days or so, but after like 3 weeks, you kind of like, this is normal kind of thing.
She's already adjusted to my weird peccadillos, so
Yeah. There was one day that you posted something, or she was posting some. You posted about I keep bothering my wife by punching in. You're typing. You played some song over and over, the opening to some song.
Oh gosh, it's kind of a joke with me. I tease Vanessa. Vanessa does not like Dave Brubeck's Take 5 because it sounds like something that BuzzFeed would use in one of their videos. And I know how to kind of play the opening, like some of the opening piano bars for that song. So it's fun whenever I get my hands on a piano because then I can tap that out and I just look back at her and see her just just shake her head in dismay.
That's something it's fun to mess with people. It's almost like, and I know this sounds like really messed up. It's almost like messing with siblings.
Yeah.
When you're teasing, but also it's your best friend. But, more importantly, it's something above that. Let's see. Danielle just typed, listen to the song after your tweet, and I hate the song too.
Oh god.
Yeah.
That's some good jazz though. That's like a classic.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It's Dave Brubeck. Come on.
Stop.
Dave Brubeck's great.
No, not that song though.
Oh gosh.
If he's great, that's probably his worst piece.
That's the piece that got him most. Actually, I don't really know much about Dave Brubeck, so I can't really say much. But
I'll have to look the song up myself. But yeah. Then her response was like, "I'm gonna call the police."
I'm gonna call. Yes.
Yeah. She
That's a crime against my well-being.
It's a crime against your well-being.
Now, how long did you you actually have to get married before you meet, or like was that you guys meeting for the first time, or did you actually get to meet before then?
Oh, we got to meet before then. That's why I was saying, the whole meeting IRL thing. It was a story in of itself. Because, like I said, my dad, my whole DeviantArt persona was like secret from ever since I opened my account at 13 until I was like, I believe how old? No, it's 2015, so I was 20 then, and I finally told my dad, like, hey, I have this account and I met this guy on it, and at first he was like, oh, okay, well, you can try meeting him. I never dated before, so I guess after that week he was kind of feeling anxious about like, oh, my daughter has a boyfriend now and everything, this and that, and like exactly a week later he tells me like okay, you know what, if you want to date this guy, you have to wait till you're done with college and everything. I was living under my parents' roof. My school was like 5 minutes away and everything, and so he just told me like if you want to start dating, you have to finish college first. And I'm like, what? And we were only like 2 hours apart by car or so. And so I was like, of course, upset at that because, like, we've been talking for like a year and a half or so, online, and we wanted to get together, in real life and like meet each other and so on. And so like my mom and my aunt saw how, distraught I was about that. And they just said, like, you know what? Like, the summer's coming up. There's what was it, Labor Day?
Yeah, Labor Day.
Labor Day's coming up, and what we do on Labor Days, we usually get together with, a few of my mom's, side of the family, my grandpa, my aunt, and a few of my uncles if they were to ever show up at the park on Labor Day. And they just said, you know what, Labor Day is coming. We're going to the park. Just invite his family over to, to finally meet them. Just invite his whole family, and everything. And so we do that. Your mom was a bit anxious about it. Like, she was like, "Oh, are you sure we should do this?" My mom had to keep reassuring her, like, "Yeah, my husband, my dad, is always like this. He's kind of stubborn. My dad is a really stubborn person, but once you push him, a little bit, just nudge him a little, he might see, like, oh, this is not so bad." And that's what happened. His family came over, went over to the park with us, and, like, ate, and we chatted a lot, and my dad got to know John a little bit and his family. And after that, he was like, "So when is the next time we're meeting them?"
It's actually really cool.
Yeah.
And after that, like, our both our families would meet, like, probably one or two more times, and then we finally, like, decided, like, oh, we want to actually date. It's not just our families meeting each other. We want to date. So John started taking the train to come over to see me in Santa Ana, and basically just hang out there. And then there was a period of time when he started getting, anxiety, and, and he was spending a bit too much money on Uber to come over here. So I thought, like, hey,
it was a dark time.
Maybe, yeah, it was a pretty dark time. So I was thinking, hey, maybe I could, try taking the train over and seeing you and everything, because I never took the train before. And, it's another step for me being a bit more independent. Like, I don't have to rely on my parents to drive me all the way over there, and I really liked it. It's really fun to go on the train. And we did that, and, up until, I finally moved out and everything, in, to the February before this last one. We got to see each other more often, but then, like, around March or April, we decided, like, oh, we want to get married and everything, like, well, like we always wanted. We always talked about it, and yeah, rest is history.
Rest is history.
Now, when it comes to your careers that you're on right now, getting out of college, did you guys go to art schools?
I went to the Art Institute of Orange County, and unfortunately, it is closed down. I'm not sure if you know anything about the Art Institutes, but they're pretty sketchy. It's to a point that I don't know if my degree is still, like, valid or not. But I feel like I probably could have benefited more if I didn't go to school and went to workshops and looked for more mentorships and, and such. But yeah, it was.
Well, you guys are chatting. I've been spying. I've been looking at your social media and your Patreon and your websites and stuff. And Jazz, you got some real good line work. Very evocative stuff, fun and light. And
it's so smooth.
Oh, thank you. I still think my line art is kind of botched, but if people think it looks good, I'm like, oh, that's good.
What it specifically brings to mind is is mid-century cartooning in the same kind of framework as Kyle Baker's more his more cartoony stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with the comic artist Kyle Baker, but
No,
he,
I'm gonna look him up right now.
yeah, he's really great, and he kind of does two styles of stuff. And one is heavily cartoony, and then he does like awesome, more realistic stuff, right?
Yeah.
And his cartoony stuff, he did an amazing run of Plastic Man in the early 2000s. That's probably the best long run Plastic Man series since the original.
Mhm.
And I'm going to space off the Jack Cole stuff. I think I don't think anyone's treated Plastic Man with more respect and more enjoyment other than Cole, except for Kyle Baker. It's really good stuff. But your stuff reminds me of his a lot in terms of its use of line, and it's really worth looking into.
Huh.
And some of those things that it reminded me of immediately was like the Fox and the Hound was one of the first things that came to mind, especially with the way that her character moved.
Mm-hmm.
That was something. That's what I like is I want to learn how to do this because Carl can do it pretty well. You know, obviously Vanessa, she can do it very well. Motion, like a lot of my images tend to like I don't know. I don't think that my avatar here looks too flat, but a lot of my images come off looking very flat and very static. And I'm trying to fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah. For my college thing, I hope I'm not derailing anything.
Oh, no, don't worry.
No, not at all. I was about to ask you.
I actually I went to a small community college in Santa Clarita for like a very like a couple of years, but I decided to ultimately bail. So I don't have any college. I don't really have a degree or anything. I don't even have debt. It just didn't seem like it was worth it for me. And it was especially too because around the time that I decided to ultimately stop going to college, this was around the time that Vanessa and I wanted to get married, when Vanessa and I were really wanting to get married, and it was like, well, you know, in order to be able to provide for a family, I don't think it would be smart for me to take on an exorbitant amount of debt to learn, to learn, to learn at college and to learn art, which the degree isn't necessarily going to have a high payoff. There's no guarantee that it's going to have a huge payoff at the end of the day. It takes a while to get into the film industry and all that other stuff. So I would probably be stuck with that debt for quite a while. And then even then, it was like, I wasn't particularly sure exactly what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to do something involving art and animation. Just what I wanted to do was still kind of unclear. Even to this day, it still kind of is. But at least have a little bit of a clearer idea of what I want to do than what I did years ago. So, that's kind of what it boils down to.
Now, when as kids did you guys begin really working towards things, towards your dreams, I guess?
Well, for me, oh gosh, that's a good question. This is why I kind of say it's kind of complicated, because when I was really young, I've always had the desire to basically make a movie, an animated cartoon or a film. But the thing is as far as developing skills, music skills, I developed, I think, around when I was 12 years old, and you can thank my aunt mostly for that one. She's also a composer. She's a smaller, lesser-known composer, though. So, she was the one that instilled that into me. And then, of course, my parents are both musicians as well. So music kind of runs in the family, and that's just been one of those things that I ultimately came to love and enjoy and develop, especially orchestral composition. As for writing stories and even as for writing stories, that I've always kind of liked to do ever since I was a little kid. And when I was in junior high school and high school, I had a group of friends that I used to write a whole bunch of stories with and come up with a whole bunch of stories with. And that's where I think it really took off. And it has been something that I've just kind of done ever since. I just kind of practiced, and I've been practicing ever since, essentially. And as for drawing, you can blame Vanessa for that one, because I mean, I could draw, but I haven't really made any major improvements until after I met her, and I still need to improve. So, that's
I mean, on a less romantic level, I've learned a lot from Carl. Yeah, actually, it's interesting meeting someone like Carl who's also so interested in cartoons and video games and stuff like that. And he helps me out. I help him out sometimes, and he's taught me a lot about drawing. And I was looking back on my pictures from before I met him, and like a full year ago. And I'm like, oh my God, I've improved so much, and I'm still not to where I want to be, but I feel like I'm so much farther down the path that I'm much closer to that than I ever was before.
One of the things I love about Carl's style is so many cartoonists and comic style artists today. They're really, and I don't mean this in a bad way or disparaging way, but so many of them are so heavily influenced by the manga and anime style. And while there's definitely some elements of that in Carl's stuff, he draws so much from Depression era comic strips that it's just such a different texture to it that I really like.
I don't trust anyone who says anime instead of anime.
Okay.
Rule of thumb.
I just say anime.
See, that's the normal people way. Reese, you learn from the humans. Yeah, that's something I remember hearing because like my whole life, I was never really a big anime person as a kid, and I'm still like kind of on it right now. Like I don't hate it. I only have like a few select ones I really care about, but I remember anime, and I was like, oh, it's anime, and then technically the correct pronunciation is anime, but as I got older, it started to bother me much more. I was just like, no, say anime.
Well, anime is just a common pronunciation, I guess.
Yeah.
It's the American kind of pronunciation.
Yeah, I also go to when I go to the restaurant, I order a soda, so I'm willing to accept that maybe I say things a little differently.
Soda? Like, I mean, that's what everyone says.
Yeah, like a soda pop.
Well, yeah,
soda
I mean, I think I'm trying to think of some interesting way because there are some times that I go up to the drive-thru, and this happened with my sister in the car, and she thought it was the funniest thing because I think it must have been either a Burger King or a Taco Bell or something, but it was like, hey, I'll get some of that Fanta orange. And then like the person was just kind of weirded out by it. I'm like, thank you very much. There's all sorts of great stories about like faking voices at the drive-thru. One funny story is if do you don't mind hearing something kind of risque, or not really risque, but kind of funny but a little inappropriate.
Oh, what?
I have a funny joke. Okay. So my friend, he's about my age. He's driving down the road. He's going to McDonald's with his friends, and they're all talking about large anime breasts. And as they're talking about this, when you're talking to your friends and the conversation's still going and you're trying to focus on something else, sometimes you say something that they're talking about. So as he's talking, he's there at the window, and he's like, it's like, hey, I'd like the 10-piece chicken McTitty. And everything just stops. His friends are like, oh, and then he just freezes, and he leans over. He's like, are you still there? And the woman's like, yes. He's like, I'm going to go somewhere else for lunch now. And just drives away.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh, that's so horrible.
Okay, he saved himself getting McDonald's chicken nuggets, so it's probably worth it.
No, I mean, I like
probably healthier from.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's divine intervention.
There you go.
Just
There you go.
So, John, when it comes to writing stories, do you feel like you have any specific inspirations or things the themes that really come into you there?
Good question. I definitely like. I think one. That's a really good question because I have like a lot of things that I like to draw from in terms of writing stories. Yeah, definitely a lot of films that I've seen and a lot of cartoons and other things that I've seen tend to pop into mind as far as where I would draw inspiration from. I tend to like a lot of the stories that I like to write are science fiction and fantasy type stories, and a lot of them are more action adventure kind of things. So often it involves going to far off places and discovering new things, defeating evil sorcerers or evil overlords, and basically trying to save the day and those kind of things. As far as typical themes and themes are still something that I'm still kind of working through as far as what I would go, but definitely themes involving I guess. Good question. Yeah, definitely themes involving friendship and uh, self-discovery. I think are a few things that probably pop up quite a bit often. In some of the things that I come up with, I guess will probably fit the bill.
Now, well, how about you, Vanessa? What are some of your biggest inspirations? Because I mean, we've kind of taken a guess at some of them, but what are some of your biggest inspirations?
Oh my gosh. Well, as of recently, of course, like, what you guys mentioned was like the mid-century aspect. Ever since, I met John and everything, I've been really into the 50s and 60s, than any other decade. And, there's a lot of sci-fi stuff in that. And so what I really like from like a lot of films that have really like struck a chord with me would be like really really thought provoking, stuff. Someday I would like to like make my own like Fantasia like sort of film. Something that kind of challenges, you know, uh, um, artistic approach, so to speak. Because we don't really challenge ourselves that much in animation as far as as we can tell. Everything looks kind of the same. That's why I was really excited when Spider-Verse came out. That was really unique, and I'm hoping that because of that we kind of start this new revolution of like utilizing 3D and 2D, you know, to these great heights and everything. And I don't know, it's just basically just to make creative stories and just have fun with it. Just do what we love to do.
Now, last Saturday, I had the distinct pleasure and honor of being invited on an art stream. I'm not really an artist; I'm a writer, but I got to sit down with across the internet with some artists, including our very own pal Carl, and some other people. And one of the themes that had come up routinely in the discussion there, and I don't know if you guys know Josh, the Amazing Animator, there on Twitter or not. But he specifically brought up, and it was something a lot of people chimed in on, that the feeling that modern animation, especially the stuff that's really popular, the very produced stuff, is so simplistic that it seems to be missing some of the charm of what makes animation different than other art forms. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised personally.
I personally think it's just the outsourcing. A lot of studios, want to, make these shows for cheaper nowadays. That's what I think, honestly.
I mean, animation is basically a business. I would imagine. I mean, it's basically a business. I mean, we all know this, and I think that a lot of the big studios, especially, they have things kind of down to a science, and what they basically pander, what my dad would probably say, to the lowest common denominator, in a sense. And that's not necessarily to say that they pander to stupid people or anything like that. It's more to say that they go for what's easy.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean that it is a
Because
smart
they know that
move. I
what's
mean,
easy is
sometimes you
what's
can really it's only really a problem I say when it gets to being kind of unnatural, it's like really forced, and you're
yeah,
like, oh, that's you're really reaching for all the kids with this one of a trend that was
yeah,
died 2 years ago. When movies or really anything put out memes that have been dead for a while.
yeah.
That's when you can really tell, but you can kind of tell when they're doing it, even when the memes are alive, I guess.
Yeah, when it's easy, it's low risk, and because it's low risk, that's where they will put their money in. Something that's high risk isn't really something that a lot of big corporate companies are going to go for, because there's no guarantee it's going to win, and it's going to really click with the audience right away, and they don't want to lose money. So I think that's ultimately what it just boils down to. Personally, thinking about how the business end of everything would run.
Mhm.
It's not the best way of going about things. That's what I personally think. I think that, honestly, I'm all for innovation and doing something different and unique personally, but that's just kind of how a lot of the major studios will go around, because they know what's easy and what is low risk. So
No, I
Yeah,
think
that's
that's
something I wanted to ask you about since Vanessa, you're a California art school graduate, and John, you're married to a California art school graduate. How do you guys feel about the whole Cal Arts thing? Do you feel like it's a stupidly coined name? Do you feel like it's accurate?
I don't think it's the right name for it, honestly. I mean, I have my own gripes with Cal Arts, you know, but everyone compares, the Cal Arts thing to like, what's it called, to Steven Universe. But from what we know, from what a lot of people know, is the creator of that show didn't go to Cal Arts at all. So I think it's really just the bean mouth style nowadays. I wouldn't call it Cal Arts style at all, because a lot of people that do Disney style come from there. You know, um, it's either a Disney style or just a kind of a TV show kind of style. I wouldn't pin it down to like a certain style, but I do know that nowadays there's too many shows with soft edges and all that. They look pretty similar. I wouldn't say the same, but similar.
It
And
almost looks kind of mass produced, like you just kind of turn, you look at cartoons from like the 2000s, you see Codename Kids Next Door, Samurai Jack, SpongeBob SquarePants, and they all look radically different from each other. And then you come to now, where a lot of the shows on Cartoon Network, you have Steven Universe, OKKO, and Craig of the Creek, which all look very similar to each other in art style.
yeah,
And it's kind of disappointing. Like, you kind of feel like there's much more you could be doing visually. Like, there's a lot. One of the best things about cartoons is the amount of visual diversity you can bring in by having shows that look radically different.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just not my thing, honestly. If other people can enjoy it, great. Um, I'm. It's just not for me, honestly.
yeah. I agree with Vanessa on this thing. I wouldn't pin it on Cal Arts per se, even though, I mean, again, I kind of share in Vanessa's opinion with Cal Arts in its own right. I think the main thing about the whole Cal Arts thing is that comes from John Kay's comments, which I don't necessarily think are.
I wouldn't want to validate whatever he says.
Yeah, we wouldn't really want to validate much of we wouldn't really want to validate anything that he really says, actually. But
Such a weird character, that man, on top of all the stuff that's been going on with him. Like, even as even as a cartoon personality, he's like the most dead set, serious person, and like nothing short of perfection in his eyes was good enough. And you
yeah,
could pick off your own show.
yeah, he was a very from everything that we've heard of him, he was very anal, so to speak, about things looking right. The whole Cal Art style thing is, it's mostly just a current design trend. Really.
That's something I hope to see. I think it'll change over the years, especially as because it's kind of a widespread complaint. Like people see things, oh, here comes the cow art style, and I'm hoping what that kind of does, and goes for comics and other things as well, is that when you get stuff that you're not happy with, I feel like that inspires you more to go and say, no, this is how it's done, guys, and share your stuff, get your ideas out there, and then other people go, hey, I like I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah. It will change, and it always does. It's kind of just the nature of how these things go. But
oh, sorry.
But yeah,
That's kind of how I feel about a lot of things like internet outrage culture. I feel like that's going to die out eventually. I feel like we're kind of in the earlier, like with that. I'm going to stay really light on that subject just because I'm tired of talking about it. But I feel like we're kind of in the early stages of the internet. So there's a lot more of that, and we're not used to being so connected all the time.
Yeah.
Like, in a little while, we'll get used to this, and a lot of this stuff that seemed horribly shocking now and really disturbing, we're kind of going to get over that and then be like, okay.
Yeah, most likely. I definitely hope so, for sure.
And it's just kind of the way things, I think it's kind of the inevitable way it's got to go, because it's either that or we deem social media a terrible use of time, which it kind of is. But let's see. Some people were typing out things. Oh, apparently Jumba's voice actor passed away from Lilo and Stitch
Oh yeah.
last year. I missed that. When did that happen?
David Ogden Stiers. That was that like a year ago?
Apparently, I'm upset that I never heard about that. I loved him.
Yeah, I heard like the date was announced like by someone on Facebook, and I was like, no. He did a lot of great voices.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still used. Like, there's some days where you just stop and you kind of come to terms with the fact that you're gonna outlive a lot of these people that you admired.
Yeah, it has been already.
Well, for some of them, I know for some voice actors and stuff, like Rob Paulson, like I got to meet him earlier this year. That's one of my highlights of the year so far. I'm thinking, I was like, oh, I'm gonna outlive him, and that's a bummer. Like, I want him to be kept in a jar, and he's just gonna do voices for the next 300 years.
That's very selfish, Matt.
I would use the power of Rob Paulson. Mine and mine alone. That was actually. Have you guys ever met any voice actors?
No.
I actually did once in passing, but it was a small. It was like for a brief 5-10 minutes maybe. I was driving working as a rideshare driver out here for Uber and Lyft, and I actually, one of my passengers was a voice actor, a small, lesser known one, but yeah. So that was cool.
Oh, have you guys ever been to conventions, like either as a invited or as a guest, or like just on the show floor?
Not really. I've only tabled for Ground Zero Animation Expo, but that was about it. It was mostly animation related, but nothing like Comic-Con or any places that celebrities or voice actors would go.
That might change at some point. But yeah, we have. I mean, aside from Ground Zero, Vanessa is only tabled there. I just got to be the lowly assistant. So
I always imagine that it has to be kind of exhausting to do those kind of things, but it kind of does look like fun at the same time.
it was fun. I don't know. What do you think, dear?
I mean, I was kind of sitting there all day.
Yeah, that is true. We were.
See, I think that like my autism would just kick in full force, and I'd just sit there and start doing something really weird, and then people are like, I'll start playing video games or something, and someone would turn like, "What are you doing?" I'd be like, playing video games, and they're like, "No, you got to keep your eyes on the customers."
There I go. Okay.
I've worked not many. I've worked several Comic-Cons, and it is exhausting to really engage all day long for all day for 2 or 3 days. It'll wear on you for sure.
It's so exhausting to socialize that much in one day.
Yeah.
Especially because especially toward the end of the second day or whatever, you always feel a little desperate because it's just like, am I here to move product or not? You know?
Like, I have so much fun just because I've always been on the other side of the table. Like, I always have so much fun just talking to these people because, you don't really get the chance otherwise. And, like, I've gotten a lot of tips, and it's also really great to just talk to, because some of these people, you don't feel like there's a mask on with them. You feel like you're talking to a genuine person who's very passionate about what they're doing. And that's the best experiences with conventions is meeting the creators that are just about as passionate as you are as a fan.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I have met some other content creators, like for some comic book writers in particular, where they were kind of snooty booties. But like, I think my experience has been mostly positive so far. I met a lot of DC creators 2 years ago at Baltimore Comic Con. That was a really cool experience. But yeah, even as an attendant, cons can get kind of exhausting. You're up there, you're walking all day, and then and then you're standing in a bunch of lines. Like, I can't imagine what it's actually like for people that are at the tables.
Yeah. From experience, it does tend to be pretty exhausting after like a while.
So let's talk a little bit about what projects you guys are working on right now. I saw that Vanessa, you've got some little day in the life comics there on the Twitter.
The small free hole one?
That's the one.
I have to continue that. It's been a while. But yeah, we're thinking of bringing Cosmic Kits into the comic world as well.
Yeah. With Cosmic Kits, we wanted to do an animated series, and we're still going to push for that. But I think that right now where we're at, while we're poor, and don't really have the means to actually hire out a crew.
Right.
We're probably just gonna go the comic book route, because I think that Vanessa and I can pull it off, just the two of us, or with a little outside help if we can commission 1 or 2 people, here and there. But I think for the most part, as far as making a comic book is concerned, we can pull it off ourselves. So that's what we're thinking with that.
I mean, this is kind of unrealistic of me and a little bit childish in the amount of dreaming that would go into it. I would love to kind of see a Christian-run animation studio, not one that's necessarily about creating, exclusively Christian content, but I'd love to see kind of a traditional, because the groups in animation tend to be very. I don't want to just like throw out a blanket term like left-leaning, but like the kind of artsy people. And there aren't a lot of people like me that are kind of very traditional. And I think that's a shame, because I've met so many wonderful people with wonderful ideas, and I feel like there's this there's like a bubble, and it's kind of hard to get into.
Yeah.
Well, for one, we don't want to be like Pureflix.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, is Pureflix the ones that did like the movies where they always have the same actors and actresses like every single time?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. I know that Pureflix has a few movies under their catalog with Kevin Sorbo, or for some reason, what is Dean Cain?
Yeah.
Dean Cain was in a few, Christian movies by Pureflix. Of course, he was in what was it called? God Not Dead, of course.
Or Mr. David A.R. White.
David A.R. White.
Yeah.
I heard that they made like a Christian action movie, with guns and everything, and I'm like, what?
I can't see that working well unless you have you'd have to break a lot of rules or kind of show that your hero is so ridiculously flawed.
Yeah.
And the message might get lost in that. Like, they might think, oh, this guy's like the worst. You got a Catholic priest running around gunning people down. He's kind of like the worst Catholic ever. Look at this guy.
Pureflix, they usually their main goal is basically like the theme, and then the story goes after, which is, and that's why they're not doing so well with, like, the general public, because it's just overly preachy, and nobody likes to be preached.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that as somebody who, I agree with the message that they're trying to put forward, or you can see where they're coming from most of the time, but it comes off in such a way that's like really ham-fisted that only like people that are homeschooled and Christian would really appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think one of the things that you have to, I think people like often, and I think it's a shame that we forget, is that Francis of Assisi had this great quote, said, "Preach always, use words if you have to," right? And I think that that's true in the arts as well. I think that if we're going to be creators and we're going to be telling stories, we can always be speaking truth, but we don't have to be so on the nose all the time. I mean, if there's one big complaint that's been levied about the comic industry in the last several years, is that it's been so on the nose, teaching this collectivist, left wing, stuff, that it's basically just the Church of Secular Humanism.
It's basically like inverse. It's the same problem with Christian movies, but backed by the biggest companies, and it's just uncomfortable because even the people, like, I have a lot of friends who are pretty liberal, but they don't like, or just like me with like a lot of Christian films, they don't like the way that it's putting out because it's so on the nose and preachy that it loses its entertainment value.
Well, story's metaphor, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. So we need to, if we're going to be creating content, we need to let it be metaphor. And I think that there are levels at which, if you're telling fables, where Aesop's fables, they're metaphor, and then they have the moral at the end of the story, because it's intended for children who are just learning how metaphors work. So they absorb the metaphor through the story, and then they are explained the metaphor at the end in the moral of the story. And that's a good format for a child, but we're not children.
Yeah. It's there's the with Christian films, it's definitely they definitely are very on the nose and very preachy about everything that they do.
There's some of the things too that I think the most popular films, maybe not the most popular, but some of the most popular films of the last 50 years have been covertly Christian films. The Lord of the Rings movies are that it's very Christian in its content, but one of the things that's really interesting about that is Tolkien, who was, for all intents and purposes, an evangelical Catholic, hated the concept of allegory because it was too basic, and it left off the nuance of what beliefs mean lived out. And so he intentionally obscured the gospel within Lord of the Rings so that you could absorb it more fully. And I think that's very, very interesting, and something that Christian creators could really do more to ingest.
Yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why I love Lord of the Rings so much.
I was actually never able to get into. Oh, sorry, I feel like you're about to go somewhere else, but I was never able to get into Lord of the Rings, and now it kind of seems interesting to me. But I think it's so weird that when everyone else was into it as a kid, I just couldn't get into it.
Well, I tried reading Hobbit and Lord of the Rings before the movie came out, and I just, there's so much lore, I couldn't get my head around it. But once I'd seen the movie, and then I was able to go back and read Lord of the Rings in a way that it actually made sense to me, and that the deep lore of that universe I was able to process it. So, but if you're going about reading, I would go ahead and start by reading The Hobbit first, because it's a real primer for the nature of of the hobbits within their greater world, I think it makes a lot of sense.
I still need to finish reading the books. I've watched the movies. I started The Hobbit, but I haven't really picked it up yet. Picked it up again.
I had the really crazy and awesome experience. I used to, well, oftentimes in the summer I'll walk to and from work. I live in a small town, and that's one of the things that I can do is I can walk around town pretty easily. And when I first read and actually was able to sit down and ingest Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit both, I was walking to and from work while I was reading. So there's a lot of foot traffic in those books. And so as I'm reading about, them walking through the fields, I'm walking over fields. And as I read them walking through canyons, I'm walking between buildings and all that kind of stuff. So it was a very visceral experience for me to read the books because I was physically doing the activity I was reading about. So
You ever feel like your adult life is just the secret life of Walter Mitty?
I'm afraid that actually may be the case.
I love that. That just makes everything so much more interesting. It also keeps your imagination flowing for when you have to do for when you're doing writing.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I feel like we've kind of one, I've been talking a whole lot. I'm very sorry about that. I've been very excited about this episode for a while. But I wanted to make sure am I walking too much over to the both of you? And Vanessa, if she's still here, or if she went back to bed.
Oh no, we're good. Vanessa and I are pretty quiet people anyways, so it's kind of difficult for us to get a word in.
Well, quick question I had for you guys is tell us some about Cosmic Cats. I'd like to hear about that.
Oh, Cosmic Kits. Well, I guess the best summary is that it is about a ragtag team of anthropomorphic animals that set out to defeat an evil political overlord, save the universe from the evil political overlord, ultimately. It's obviously set in a 1950s retrofuturistic space setting. So there's definitely a lot of that. It's an adventure story, and we kind of hope to, or at least I kind of hope anyways, to kind of have a sort of a bittersweet, kind of hopeful type of a heroic type of a story, essentially, for it all.
So what makes the evil overlord evil?
We're still kind of working out the details, but definitely. What?
Basically, we're still working it out. It's gonna be a surprise, actually. We're still working out the story and the characters and everything. So we're still kind of in the draft of everything. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be excited to tell all the details, but as far as the story is concerned, I don't want to really go too far over the limit, I guess.
That makes perfect sense. Absolutely. So,
but
it's basically this ragtag team of animals that want to save the universe, or at least the galaxies that are known, because in the lore that we're kind of exploring for this idea is basically humans are extinct. The last thing they wish for humanity, or at least for all other living things, so to speak, is that humans ruined everything for wildlife and animals. So they thought like, oh, well, send all these animals on in a Noah's Ark like fashion to the next Earth-like planet, so they can thrive on their own without humans and all that. So, you have all these scientists, send them off, and they start to gain sentience, so to speak. So once they become sentient, they become more intelligent. They become more human-like. That they become like these new humans. They build societies. They start colonizing on new planets nearby. Which would help with population. So I guess you could say that these anthropomorphic animals that came to be would kind of do things a bit better than humans, but they would still kind of have, the same problems that humans have, and so
Now, sorry.
because of this, there's this whole, universe. They keep colonizing new planets and all. Meanwhile, the solar system, is left abandoned. Because um, they've traveled like light years away to this new galaxy that this Earth like.
You mean solar system?
This
Or-
new solar system, so to speak.
Yeah.
Where they would call the new solar system, and it'd probably be like the capital of all things, since it's probably like the founding place.
I did actually kind of name what one of the solar systems was. Kind of how I imagined it would be is it would be the entire Milky Way galaxy actually that they would inhabit. So there would be multiple solar systems that they would go to, and it'd be like different cities and different states essentially. Kind of that kind of a thing.
Sort of like oh gosh, so like going to like a different planet would be like going to a different state, so to speak. They would become that advanced that they could travel things that way pretty easily, and but that's like the universe. It's for the characters. So you have this ragtag team of these animals, and they want to save the the galaxies that which are known, and um inhabited by all these animals, all these new human like creatures, it's sort of like how of course there's like an underlying like bigger plot going on, but I really liked how in Kim Possible you would have like the kind of villain of the week kind of thing. There wouldn't be just one villain. I mean, there'd be one main one, but I would like to have fun with having a bunch of other minor villains here and there, that kind of just want to mess with them, or kind of mess up whatever they're going for. So it's basically just Mono and Jazzy going about their own thing with with along with Casey, Boris, Pip, and Ace coming along with them. They're all these weirdos, coming together and just doing great things, because they're with each other, they have their own skills and talents and all, and yeah, basically.
Oh, it's really nice to hear. You're very passionate about the project. It's kind of cool to hear you talking about it. The one thing I wanted to ask you about, did you guys have any like kind of sources of inspiration from things like other anthropomorphic, tales of adventure in space, like Star Fox or Bucky O'Hare?
Well, actually, it's really interesting. A lot of the inspiration where the 4 cosmic kits actually comes from Laputa Castle in the Sky is definitely one movie that we kind of inspired some of the story from. Cowboy Bebop is another one that we also kind of took some inspiration from. I'm also kind of subtly taking a little bit of inspiration from Star Trek too. Because especially with how the Cosmic Kids team that Monochrome and Jazzy run is basically kind of based off of, in a sense, that they have a weapons manager, they have a medic, they have a engineer, computer specialist, that kind of a thing. Let's see what other things as far as anthropomorphic. Gosh, I'm not particularly sure any specific anthropomorphic films that we might have gotten some inspiration from.
Not really.
No,
I
not
mean,
really.
a lot of people would think that Zootopia was one of them, but we actually, started thinking about, the whole beginning of this concept came before we ever saw Zootopia. We're a little bit inspired by that, but I feel like we could go with a more stylistic approach that could, really, kind of sell the universe that this is held in. Like it's sort of it's not sorta. It's we really want to have like this space age mid-century style in this thing, and it would make sense, because there are these animals that kind of want to, go about their own way, you know, um, without humans and everything, and probably they'd see like, oh, look at all the ambitious things that we wanted to do in the 50s and 60s. Like, why don't we do that since humans didn't do it?
That's
And
kind of cool, like picking up on someone else's dream, maybe doing it in their honor, even if they screwed you over.
Yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
I was going to say another subtle inspiration too is Forbidden Planet. If you want to go the.
I've never actually, like, I know that's a classic, but I've never actually watched Forbidden Planet.
I've watched it. Well, I actually haven't. I thought it was entertaining. I don't know. I think Vanessa thought it was kind of boring.
Those older movies are a bit of an acquired taste, but they're definitely, like, for any cinephile, they're definitely a classic.
Yeah.
Speaking about centuries and space adventures and all that kind of stuff, do you guys feel a lot of interest or being drawn toward the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons?
Yeah.
Jetsons.
I mean, I didn't watch a lot of them. I did grow up with the Flintstones a little bit, but
Granddad.
I didn't really watch it all that much. For sure, my family has watched more Hanna-Barbera than I did when they were younger, because my dad was from El Salvador, and he would tell me a lot that I'm not sure if you even know, but Latinos, mostly Mexicans, really love Top Cat. They love it to bits. Even now, like a few years ago, they came with a CGI film of Top Cat. They're crazy about it. So my dad would tell me, sometimes, he would randomly put it on one day when I was still living, with my parents and everything, and he'd tell me like all these things, like, oh, this was like chowder to us when we were growing up and everything, and yeah, they were more into Hanna-Barbera than I was. I mean, I do like the 50s and 60s, style of everything, but I can't really get into it with the limited animation. I mean, I'm pretty sure like when they started out with those shows, they had more. They had more of a budget for the animation, because I have seen like on the no context Hanna-Barbera videos on Twitter and everything. There was some stuff that looked actually pretty impressive. But then you hear, years later, they were probably wanting to pump out more, episodes and all that. So they started lowering the budget. And yeah, but honestly, the style is really good, um, really aesthetically pleasing, at least to me.
Yeah.
And we're actually gaining a bit of inspiration from the Jetsons as well.
Mhm.
Another thing would be like Tomorrowland from 1955 in Disneyland has that huge, space age, 1950s look, and which I'm really still bummed about today. It looked so much roomier back then, and nowadays they have that really dated looking, steampunk style in Disneyland now. But what else? Also, Disney's Magical Highway is a cartoon. You can find it on YouTube, and that basically kind of shows like the Disney view of what the future would be like. I forget what year they specifically said, if any, but it was super stylish, and I was like, oh gosh, I would want that for cosmic kids. Just really, really retrofuturistic.
I watched more Hanna-Barbera when I was a kid.
I loved Hanna-Barbera growing up, but I think even back then we kind of appreciated there was the shoestring budget. But that kind of gave it a charm to me, I guess. I always liked them. Some people have like a bit of a hate thing for Hanna-Barbera, and that kind of bothers me.
Well, this is the thing. I'm coming at somebody. I'm much older than you guys, but I'm still too young to have seen it first, right? It was
Right.
reruns when I was a kid, but when I was a kid, there was no Cartoon Network, there was no whatever else. It was just it was after school cartoons and Saturday morning cartoons, and a lot of those were Ruby Spears, and a lot of those were reruns, and so I saw a lot of Hanna-Barbera cartoons growing up, and Jabberjaws and the Herculoids and a lot of those kind of stuff that have even Johnny Quest stuff that has this crazy zany after school special style science fiction kind of stuff, and it's really kind of weird because hard edge science fiction has kind of disappeared from the public consciousness in the last few years, and kind of been replaced by space opera stuff. And not that I think that's necessarily a bad thing, but it is really interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to ask you guys a question. One thing I see a lot with Twitter artists, and I personally am of the opinion that some Twitter artists can be a little too sensitive about these things, is that they get very upset when you compare their projects or their characters to ones you've seen elsewhere. Like, say, I love Codename Kids Next Door and Earthbound, the video game. And I draw, like, my character designs are kind of to bring that, or I do them in such a way I kind of want to bring that style back of the kind of mutated Charlie Brown. And one thing I see a lot on Twitter is that people get upset when you compare it. Like, they go like, "I'm trying, okay," or they get very upset about these things. How do you guys feel about when your stuff is compared to something else? Is it humbling or is it obnoxious? What is it?
For me, it depends.
Yeah.
If it's a person that I know I've obviously never taken any influence from, I'm like, how? How do you think this? Kind of thing. And it just makes me think that I'm not setting myself apart enough, and I just set out to work on that. I want to make myself as me as possible. Of course we tend to borrow from other existing things, but it's really kind of a compliment when people actually know where I'm getting my inspiration from.
It sends joy up through my whole body when people say, "Oh, this looks like Codename Kids Next Door" on my stuff. Like, I get happy because in my mind I'm like, I feel like I'm almost living up to Mr. Waterson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like for me, I don't really want to be compared to names. If people can, see that I'm getting like a mid-century vibe, that is like enough for me.
How about you, John?
Well, I mean, I really don't draw characters as much. Generally, whenever somebody would approach me with something like that, I'd be like, "Really, who are they?" And I'd look them up. It's just mostly come off as a curiosity to me. I don't draw characters as often as Vanessa does. I really need to work on my characters. Yeah, generally it just makes me curious and just kind of just puzzled at best. I don't take too much offense at things. I mean, it's not that I can't get offended. It's just, I generally just tend not to. So, but it does make me curious half the time. Like, oh, really? Is that right?
I think that's actually a very good way of taking offense to things. And when people talk about, "Oh, you're too sensitive," or this, that, or the other, that's kind of how I am. I'm not really. Or it's not that I can't be offended so much as I'm not. I don't tend to be offended. I think that's a good way of putting it. One question I had for the both of you, because you're both big Twitter personalities. Jazz, you actually are so far the largest person we've had. Or not talking physically. I'm talking social media following. You are the biggest. I guess celebrity we've had on the last couple. We did have a few. If you've ever heard of Andrew Huerta or Donald DeLay on Twitter.
Yeah, I believe Andrew.
Yeah, I think I know that guy. Yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew Huerta. He does like this really cool hip hop graffiti style. It's really something. But yeah, even then, your social media presence kind of eclipses their Jazz. So I
Oh,
wanted to ask you, what is it like, or being a popular Twitter artist, or what is it kind of like having a Twitter presence, really?
I mean, I don't really feel all that much of a difference, honestly. I still kind of feel like how I was when I had 300 followers back in the day. You know, I don't really pressure people to follow me, or at least not nowadays. You know, back when I had 300, I was kind of like feeling pressured, like, oh, how am I gonna get, you know, have my presence, online and all that. But nowadays, it's like I don't really care all that much anymore. I'm pretty sure you've seen that I just use my Twitter to just put up really really stupid musings of mine, you know, um, like
Your weird tweets.
my weird tweets, the oh, what was my best one? Um, oh gosh, just some of my weird ones, like the one where I said that before my first kiss, the only tongue I've had was tacos de lengua, which is basically like beef tongue tacos. So
Ooh.
it's like, if you haven't tried it, uh, don't be alarmed. It's actually really good if you put salt in it. So, but yeah, um, but other than that, it's really not much because it's just an internet presence, and and really, in real life, I'm just the same. It's just the same mundane, life you have and everything. I don't really think that the follower count really matters. You just work hard. Of course, you're gonna keep growing. I didn't really think I would get that far, you know. But one of the things that kind of helped it, and I didn't really expect it to, was the whole small but mighty hashtag I started doing back in January. I just wanted to see, other new talents that, that probably haven't, you know, um, surfaced, because, the Twitter algorithm and all that stuff. And I just wanted to honestly see, like, oh, what good talent is out there, and, to follow them and maybe, help them out a bit too, because I was in that, you know, I was in that, placement years ago, and I was just thinking, oh, I just want to pay it forward, and help all these smaller artists out. We were there once before, you know, and so, I didn't expect people to follow me for that, really. I just wanted to see some new artists, and people just happened to follow me from right then. I didn't ask for it, but, you know, I'm glad that, that sort of happened. I wouldn't really care if I didn't, get some new followers from that. But it's one of those things where, you help each other out, so to speak, So,
Now, oh, sorry,
that,
go ahead.
it's just, I don't know. It's just feels the same to me, honestly.
Yeah. I'm obviously not as big as Vanessa is in terms of Twitter presence, but I'm kind of the same way. It's just kind of it doesn't really feel that much different from regular life. You just treat everybody nicely, be courteous, and
Have fun with it.
just have fun with it, really. You know?
Amazing. I mean, Twitter and have fun with it sound like they should be in nowhere near each other.
Well, that you have to find the right places.
Yeah, that's the truth. Is I think the more as more time goes on, I find myself seeing drama and angry posts and stuff like that, and just kind of scrolling past them. Like I don't have time for this.
Mhm.
Pro tip: use the word muter thing. That really helps a lot.
Yeah, I'm actually seriously considering that on some topics, just because I'm sick of hearing about it. Like I'd kind of, I mean, not like to kind of drill myself out of it, but I'd just like to hear about politics less. in general. Like it's everywhere, and I just want kind of an outlet or somewhere to get away from it. You know,
If anything, just getting off Twitter in general just helps a lot.
Yeah.
I've actually found
just going outside and
Take a
just
walk.
living life.
Take a
yeah,
walk.
that's what, I've actually found peace before by taking social media hiatuses. Like you just delete Twitter from your phone, go outside, and then like spend the next 3 days just kind of recollecting yourself, and then get back on, talk to all your friends. One question before I forget. So when it comes to, I wanted to ask you both about it, like Christianity. Were you guys both from like heavily Christian households? Was it something that one of you brought into the marriage?
We were both Christian from the beginning. We were both raised as such. My family is different though, because we came from a Latino Baptist church. But the thing is that my last church that my parents still attend. I won't say their name and everything, just for out of respect and everything. But I heavily disagree with it because a lot of it was what is it called?
It's
Charismaticism. They a lot of people from my old church really liked Joel Osteen, to name a few.
Like that, it was like that kind of church.
Yeah.
I came from a Reformed Baptist church background actually.
It's kind of funny because baptism kind of and Protestantism kind of sprung out from be Protestant protest. So Reformed baptism is like the reform of the reform.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird pay, but basically, I guess the best way of putting it is that we're Calvinist, I guess, or at least I would consider myself to be Calvinist in terms of where my theology stands on the matter.
Well,
So,
we go to the same church.
Well,
I don't argue, so I guess I am too.
Yeah, I guess you could say so.
The biggest debate between the Protestant church between Calvinism and Arminianism has to do with opinions on predestination.
Yeah.
I'm personally one of those people. I'm on all of the above. So I currently attend a Berean church, but I have I guess the most agreement with the Calvary Chapel position, which is that it is both entirely your free will and entirely predetermined. So I don't think those things are actually in conflict when you're dealing with an eternal God outside of time.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff is just so much fun to think about, like how God operates, outside of time, and how these it's just fun to even think about these concepts.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the biggest parts in high school is where I feel like a lot of people kind of makes or breaks their faith, or they just pretend to ignore it when they really start to question things and think, well, what do I believe? Stuff like that was really kind of solidified my faith throughout high school. Like it was kind of wavering, or like I wasn't as into it. And I sat and I thought about it in these like really kind of abstract ways like that. And in a way, questioning it kind of like shoved me in further.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead.
I'm not going to say anything more. What were you going to say?
I was just going to ask, Jazz, is there now you've talked about you getting a job freelancing on SpongeBob. Or is there anything you're allowed to talk about with that?
Just that it was just a plussing job. It took a week to do, really. And it was basically they just give me a storyboard that is rough, and I kind of, clean things up a bit or put a bit more gags, clean up the, the expressions and poses. That was about it, and that's all I'll say about it. But it was a fun experience.
Yeah, see, that's just really cool. To me, that's making it in cartoons, is working on I always think SpongeBob is like the cartoon right now. Like you think about cartoons and SpongeBob is one of the first ones that comes to mind. Yeah, that's just like that's just super cool. Yeah, now they're all talking about religion in the comments.
Oh no.
All good things actually. Like, you know, most of the time when people bring up religion, it can get very hostile.
Yeah.
Right here, it's just people talking to each other. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a Calvinist. I'm a Catholic. I'm a this or that, the other. Um, we actually have a very lax community here. Like, we usually have a couple of regulars who show up almost every stream. And we try to keep it like, you know, we do have like kind of an interview thing going on, but we do like to kind of keep it casual. Like, yeah, like almost like you're just talking to people over beer, which I don't drink because I'm a good boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the environment, and that's something I strive to keep as time goes on.
So, off the subject of art, directly of visual arts, anyway, John, you're a musician, and you've done
Yes.
some musicianship. What is your? Tell us a little bit about your musicianship there.
Well, I would I'm primarily a composer. Actually, I do most of my work on the computer. The primary style of music that I mostly do is orchestral music. I like doing big orchestral scores, but I like to dabble a little bit with other genres like jazz and electronic music and something like that. I think I did a disco piece once that was kind of a meme, actually. It was kind of a meme. It was basically taking the Donut Boy scene, one of the Donut Boy scenes from Jimmy Neutron, and I just the song, and basically I just turned it into like a more extended disco piece, which is really fun to do. I'm tempted to maybe try to do a better version of that, but I don't know.
So, two questions in relation to that. One, so how did you get into composing? You mentioned that you didn't finish college. Is that something you started doing in high school, or just something you decided to do on your own there?
Well, it was actually kind of something that I did on my own. Yeah, mostly started when when I was kind of, I guess I was with my grandparents at one point, and I had my aunt there, my composer aunt, my musician aunt was there, and she set me up at one of her computers, and I discovered some music making software, and ultimately I used that. No, actually, it was even earlier than that. Okay, let me backtrack that. My dad had installed music notation software on one of my older computers a long time ago, and basically I started using that to kind of play around and write music with, because I had music notation software. Now, I grew up in a musical family. My dad is a brilliant musician. Right now, he kind of plays with an orchestra in Palmdale at the Antelope Valley College. Just every now and then, occasionally, he's taking bass lessons. So he plays the double bass. But he also plays a whole bunch of other instruments, such as the electric bass, the clarinet, the saxophone. Or he used to do the clarinet and the saxophone. He can play guitar. I've heard him noodle around on the piano a couple of times. So, I mean, my dad's a really brilliant musician. And basically, and I think he also writes music every now and then too, but it's mostly like writing parts if he's involved in like another like the church music band, or if he's involved in something along those lines, he might write a couple of parts for something if he needs to. But my parents had me learn how to play the saxophone, and obviously they had me music notation software installed on my computer, and that's basically where I kind of just picked it up, because I had the software on there, and I just ultimately I decided it was something that I enjoyed doing. Well, it really took off when my aunt basically introduced me to GarageBand '08, and they had the orchestral instruments there, and they sounded really nice, at least so I thought at the time. And basically, it just kind of perpetuated itself from there. I got into that, and then I wanted to start getting music software, and I just continued to compose over the course of that, and I've basically been doing that ever since. So, yeah.
How much do you really use the music in your storytelling at all, or is that something that you feel like a connection with?
It's really interesting. I guess the best way of putting it is it's almost like with a lot of this, with a lot of the stories that I make, with a lot of the music I make, I always have some sort of story that goes behind it. In a majority of this, in a lot of the stories that I tend to come up with, there's always some sort of a musical theme that kind of goes alongside it. So in a way, I guess you could say that I kind of feel as though music and story really just can't be separated from one another. You know, almost like music in a way of its own can actually tell its own stories, or can tell a story, but on a much different level than text itself could.
Right.
So, you know, it's kind of synonymous in a way.
So if you guys decide to do the Cosmic Hits comic, are we going to have like a rockabilly soundtrack to go with it?
You're going to have different styles of music coming alongside of that. Actually, what Vanessa and I had planned for the animation, for the animated series version, and we'll definitely still do this for the comic as well, is that we would have a full orchestral, kind of John Williams-esque type of a score with a bit of inspiration from Gustav Holst. Because of the planets. You'll have some jazz. You'll have a lot of jazz because it's kind of a 1950s retrofuturistic styled thing. And we would also like to experiment a little bit with rockabilly and disco, ironically enough, or some musical styles that would come alongside of it. So that's kind of what we have planned. But it'd mostly be a full orchestral, kind of John Williams-esque kind of a score is what we're planning. So
yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this to see this project evolve. That sounds like a real awesome thing.
Yeah, we're excited.
Follow you on Twitter so I can keep up on all of that stuff.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep, definitely going to happen. So, we are just about at the 9 o'clock hour. I know we got started a little late, but I have asked the questions that I had to ask. Matt, do you have any other questions for him?
I think I'm a little questioned out. Actually, we have
there you go.
the show to ask the both of you really quick about how we did and some suggestions in the future and stuff like that.
John, Vanessa, anything you guys would like to share with the few people we've got watching and when it comes in later?
What do you think? Is there?
I don't really know.
Eat your asparagus. Oh gosh, I don't know. On a more serious note, not really. Just
And you guys time.
Yeah.
I would say maybe remember to pee in your sink.
Oh gosh.
It's probably healthier. Don't ask questions. Just do it.
That sounds like a conversation that I may or may not want to hear.
So that sounds like an off-air conversation, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's definitely an off-air conversation. Yeah, that would be a story. That's a story for the story behind that is for another day. Just everybody,
That's
keep pursuing your dreams, I guess.
Yeah. So, as Boz Kanata said, that's an excellent story for another time, right?
Yeah.
So, well, I guess we're going to go ahead and sign off, guys. Thanks for tuning in. All of you guys in the chat, Easy Bake Coven, Danielle, Carl. I don't know if you're still out there or not, but you guys, thanks for tuning in. And some people that didn't want to say anything, and that's fine though. But we'll catch you guys all later. And just so you guys know, next week, I don't know what we're doing for the show because I'm not going to be here next week. It's a whole thing. My kids' science fair, which I told you guys all about here a couple weeks ago, which was canceled due to the bad weather. So I was on last week. But this next week it's been rescheduled. So I am going to be traveling across the great state of Nebraska in between times. So I'm not going to be on the show. So we got to figure that out, Matt. But
I'll find something. I always do. The only thing I can't find is how to operate YouTube streaming stuff on my own.
Maybe we'll figure that out for you. But
that'll be a part of my homework.
Internet, YouTube, you guys have a good night. And John, Vanessa, if you want to stay on for a little bit, we will chat with you in the after show.
All right.
Okay. Well, good night, folks.